Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hi, everyone. Is it good? Hello. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Your Highness, Sheikha Shamma bin Sultan bin Khalifa Al Nahyan, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Fatema Mulla. I'm the Director of Partnerships at the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, and we are thrilled to be here with you today. I will be your MC for the session. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the launch of the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, which is an initiative that has been spearheaded by the United Arab Emirates and Indonesia. In this critical decade for climate action, MAC aims to promote mangroves as a nature-based solution to climate change and to foster collaboration between partners for climate change mitigation and using ecosystem-based approaches. The goal of MAC is to accelerate conservation, restoration, and plantation efforts of mangrove ecosystems for the benefits of communities globally. And there is no better platform to launch this than at COP27. With that, please join me in welcoming Her Excellency Mariam Almheiri, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment of the United Arab Emirates, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, everybody. Just change. I hope you can hear me. A warm welcome to all of you, Your Highness, Sheikha Shamma, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and I hope you can all hear me. So, as we're all working towards combating climate change, I think it is imperative to remember that while technology is important, we must not underestimate the power of nature. We need to make nature our ally. Now, many of you know that the UAE is a desert landscape, but there is a special tree, a very climate-resilient tree, not your typical tree, but a tree that grows where land and sea meet, and it can grow in very highly saline water. It is the mangrove tree. Let me just highlight to you some of the great characteristics of this tree. It can absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere 4 times more than your typical forest tree. Mangroves are a habitat for many species of birds, crabs, fish, and in fact, 80% of global fish populations start their lives in mangrove ecosystems. Mangroves are a means of climate adaptation and act as a coastal protector. They're like soldiers protecting us from rising sea levels. And mangrove forests are an integral part of our country's natural heritage. And by the way, our ancestors used to use mangroves as forage for their camels and goats. Now, these ecosystems are so beneficial. So what is the problem? Unfortunately, mangrove ecosystems face many challenges, including a lack of shared genetic resources of adaptation mangroves, high costs of restoration, and lack of research in this area. And this is why we are here today. We want to start a global movement and get countries to come on board and commit to restoring mangrove ecosystems. And I'm so proud to announce that we have joined forces with the Republic of Indonesia to launch the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, MAC for short. Friends, this alliance aims to conserve and expand mangrove cover all over the world, in addition to boosting public engagement in mangrove plantation and protection while capitalizing on private sector philanthropic efforts. I extend my sincere appreciation to His Excellency Luhut and his team at the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment, as well as the Vice Minister for Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, His Excellency Alo Duhong, who's with us here today, I'm also happy to announce, as part of this alliance, as part of MAC, Indonesia and the UAE commit to establishing the Mohammed bin Zayed International Mangrove Research Center in Indonesia. This research center will specialize in studying, assessing, managing, protecting, and restoring mangrove ecosystems, including conducting studies on mangrove ecosystem services, such as carbon sequestration and ecotourism, and their economic valuation. And this knowledge will be shared with the Mangrove Alliance for Climate Partners, among others, of course. We're also proud to announce the first 5 countries who have joined us so far in MAC: Australia, India, Japan, Spain, Sri Lanka. Thank you to all of you who have come with us here today from those 5 countries. Some of you are here today, so we thank you for being here. And I really look forward to harnessing with all of you the power of nature, and in particular the mangroves, and I thank you all for being here with us today. Let's join forces and make nature our ally. Join MAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would now like to hand over the floor to His Excellency Alu Duhong, Vice Minister of Forestry and Environment of Indonesia.
Excellency Minister Mariam bin Mohammed, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment of UAE, representative from state and ministries, Minister of Environment of India, colleagues, and other colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it is a very good opportunity to be able to attend this 27th Conference of Parties, UNFCCC, here in 2020, present in the UAE Pavilion to have a soft launch of the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. I hope this event would be able to intensify our goals toward low carbon development. We noticed that Indonesia has 3.36 million hectares of mangrove. This figures about 20% of the world mangrove. This government of Indonesia is currently rehabilitating around 600,000 hectares of critical areas of mangrove up to 2024. In the meantime, mangrove are estimated to cover more than 150 square kilometers of UAE coastline, acting as green lungs for the big cities such as Abu Dhabi and Dubai, while also providing habitat for the wildlife, recreation ground for human. Most of us would see mangrove as a beautiful element of our landscape, a natural fringe to our developed urban environment, where flamingos flock together and fish and crustaceans proliferate. A number of scientific studies indicate that mangrove can sequester 4 up to 5 times more carbon dioxide compared to rainforests can do. Seeing how big this potential of mangrove to reduce carbon emission, it is important to us to take action and collaborate to maximize the benefits of mangrove as a nature-based solution. In this regard, mangrove is potential resources for achieving our nationally determined contribution. Yet, the challenge until today is how to maximize the potential of mangroves sequestration not only as a forest, but also in terms of blue carbon resources, as well as other environmental services. Furthermore, we understand that Indonesia and UAE have a common concern on the conservation, sustainable utilization of mangrove resources as nature-based solution to addressing climate change. Focusing on the nature-based solution as climate action, Indonesia and UAE has initiated the Mangrove Alliance for Climate Change, or MAC, as recently Minister just announced, which could amplify the global efforts to achieve the international climate agenda. The MIC will leverage and strengthen ongoing efforts and commitment of its member countries in science research, coastal management and conservation, education, climate mitigation approaches, and climate adaptation and related policy. Pursuant to the MOU between Indonesia and UAE, Indonesia has a full support on the establishment of Mangrove Alliance for Climate through a concrete project by establishing Research Center for Climate. Thanks to the UAE for the contribution on this research center development, and hope this planning will be concreted soon. Moreover, the MOU mentions as well that research center, namely Mohammed bin Zayed International Mangrove Research Center for Climate. I believe that through the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, it will be having a broader member among countries. Excellency Minister just mentioned about 5 countries already, and we do hope more countries are going to join us this alliance. It will having a broader members among countries in the near future, and this cooperation will be able to strengthen our partnership and provide strong impacts on climate action. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your ongoing partnership and for your remarks. I would now like to bring your attention to the screen for a short video. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, guests, we are also excited today to launch our official website. To learn more about MAC and the aim of the initiative and how to join this global collaboration, please visit our website at mangroveallianceforclimate.org. We understand the importance of global collaboration to achieving our goals for this initiative. So it is a pleasure to welcome all of our partners on board. I would like to invite Her Highness Sheikha Shamma, Your Excellencies, our speakers, and our partners for a group photo, please.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Her Highness Sheikha Shamma bin Sultan Al Nahyan, Executive Director of the UAE Independent Climate Change Accelerator, for her remarks.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here today at the launch of the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. I am proud to see the many countries working together to protect the mangrove belts through this great initiative. I'm honored that my country, the United Arab Emirates, is partnering with the wonderful people of Indonesia. Mangroves are perhaps the most important nature-based solution to the devastating effects of climate change. As the only representative of the non-governmental sector working closely with the private sector who is speaking at this event, we need to inspire private sector research and solutions to protect and restore mangroves across the world. Our global economy and our environment are interconnected, and they should work in symbiosis. There must be limits to economic growth when we, as a human race, are extracting resources more than the earth can replenish and emitting tons of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Corporate collaboration is critical to support blue carbon initiatives. I am proud to be leading the UAE's Independent Climate Change Accelerators, a non-partisan organization that convenes the public and the private sector to accelerate the green economy and enable collaboration, cooperation, and innovation. In the United Arab Emirates, mangroves are protected by strictly enforced environmental protection laws that are one of the many conservation legacies of our late president, His Highness Sheikh Zayed, my great-grandfather. Sheikh Zayed lived close to nature, in the desert or on the coast, whenever possible. In his day, fish were an important source of nutrition and income. The people of the Emirates dried the fish in Abu Dhabi and transported it inland to villages for consumption. The fish had been spawned in the mangroves around the island of my city, Abu Dhabi. My great-grandfather remembered the importance of this ecosystem, and as president in 1993, he established policies and regulations for us, the future generations, to continue conservation and protection of our natural resources. His work continued under His Highness Sheikh Khalifa, my grandfather. He directed that a mangrove nursery would be created before any work began on the construction of the museums and the cultural district on Saadiyat Island. In 2019, I had the privilege of co-founding Mangroves for Mankind, a social enterprise driven by a team formed of volunteers on a mission to conserve and restore mangrove ecosystems with the goal to combat climate change. I have a long love for mangroves and I enjoy walking among them. Mangroves comprise 155 kilometers square of UAE's coastline, historically a resource for food, fuel, and building materials, making them both a historical and cultural significance. As an example, mangroves were the only available source of log timbers with which roofs were built for housing in our early history. We take mangroves seriously, and the law stipulates that any single mangrove lost due to construction or infrastructural development projects must be replenished with the planting of 2 more mangroves, 2 trees planted for the loss of 1. Today, President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed continues to keep our focus on the mangroves that guard our coastline from floods and rising sea levels, provide shelter for young fish, safety for migrating birds, and critically captures tons of carbon dioxide. The biodiversity created and maintained by mangrove forests is essential to the well-being of the UAE. The case for this has never been more clear. We not only need to nurture and preserve our existing mangroves, but we also need to plant more mangroves, as mangroves are perhaps the most important nature-based solution to the devastating effects of climate change. Restoring mangrove belts help limit coastal flooding, the erosion of coastal land, and it provides breeding grounds for a remarkable variety of nature. A point we cannot underscore enough is that 80% of the global fish population relies on healthy mangrove systems to survive and thrive. As you well know, meetings, events, summits don't engage in planting mangroves. These are carried out by people. So how do we make that happen? We need to engage corporate and private entities who see the potential for progressing sustainability and profitability by investing in mangrove development and planting. We need to encourage and inspire private sector to make profits that are purpose-driven. We need to initiate research and development into areas such as growth, transplantation, and deployment of robust mangrove varieties that are developed for their local environment and habitat. We need to inspire governments to invest in mangrove initiatives as a viable solution to rising sea levels and changing climate patterns, such as the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. I am committing here today that my organization, the UAE's Independent Climate Change Accelerators, will include the study of nature-based solutions focusing on mangroves in our early studies and recommendations. Congratulations once again on the launch of Mangrove Alliance for Climate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Highness, on the necessity for climate action and the importance to act today for a better tomorrow. I would now like to welcome the Minister of India to the stage to give his remarks, please.
I would like to thank Her Excellency, Mariam bin Mohammed Almheiri, Minister of Climate Change and Environment, Kingdom of United Arab Emirates, and His Excellency Aldhaheri, Minister of Forestry and Environment, Indonesia, for hosting this event, which brings nations around the world together under one roof to advance the global cause of mangroves, one of the marvels of Mother Nature. Mangroves are not one of the most productive ecosystems of the world. This tidal forest serves as a nursery ground for several organisms, protect the coastal erosion, sequestering the carbon, and providing livelihood for millions of people, beside harboring array of faunal animals in its habitat. Mangroves are distributed in the tropical and subtropical region of the world, are around in 123 countries. Mangroves are among the most carbon-rich forests in the tropics. They account for 3% of carbon sequestrated by the world's tropical forests. Mangroves are the economic foundations of many tropical coastal regions. To sustain the blue economy, it is imperative to ensure the sustainability of coastal habitats, particularly mangroves are tropical nations at the local, regional, and international levels. With notable adaptive features, mangroves are natural armed forces of tropical and subtropical nations. They are the best option to fight against climate change consequences like sea level rise and increasing frequency of natural calamities like cyclone and storm surges. Distinguished guests, India has committed in its NDC to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion ton of CO2 equivalent through additional forest and tree cover by 2030. We see the tremendous potential mangroves have a mitigation of growing CHG concentration in the atmosphere. Studies have shown that mangrove forests can absorb 4 to 5 times more carbon emission than landed tropical forests. It has also revealed that mangroves can act as buffer for ocean acidification and act as a sink for microplastics. Creating new carbon sink for mangrove afforestation and reducing emissions from mangrove deforestation are two feasible ways for countries to meet their NDC targets and achieve carbon neutrality. Excellencies, India is committed to conservation and restoration of natural ecosystems and has a strong commitment toward conservation and management of mangroves. One of the largest remaining areas of mangroves in the world, the Sundarban, support an exceptional level of biodiversity in both the territorial and marine environment, including significant populations of a range of flora and plant species, species of wildlife, wide range of fauna, including the Bengal tiger and other threatened species such as the estuarine crocodile and the Indian python. There is significant increase observed in mangroves cover in India in its Andaman region, Sundarban region, and in the Gujarat region. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and participants at this COP, India has demonstrated expertise in mangrove restoration activity for nearly 5 decades and restored different types of mangrove ecosystem both in its east and west coast. Excellency, I congratulate you on the launch of Mangrove Alliance for Climate for the conservation of mangroves with the cross-boundary cooperation to meet the international climate goal. We also feel that integration of mangroves into the national reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation program are the need of the hour. India can contribute to the global knowledge base due to its extensive experience in mangrove restoration, studies on ecosystem valuation and carbon sequestration, and also benefit from associating with other nations regarding cutting-edge solution and generating appropriate financial instrument for mangrove conservation and restoration. Let us join hands together to protect one of the most precious assets of the tropical coast towards sustainability and adaptation to the consequence of climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency Bhupender Shri Bhupender, sorry. It's a pleasure to have India's support in addressing the importance of mangrove conservation for climate action. We know we cannot achieve real climate action without coming together and forming strong partnerships. Please join me in welcoming Her Excellency Razan Mubarak, President of the IUCN, to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of the International Union of the Conservation of Nature, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the government of the United Arab Emirates and the government of Indonesia for this great initiative. Like you and like the governments of both Indonesia and the UAE, we all recognize the importance of nature-based solutions, and in particular, mangroves. Mangroves for a region like the Arab world and the MENA region is extremely significant. The MENA region does not have a lot of natural assets and natural capital. And so we must really conserve what we have and really adopt a zero nature loss policy. And I'm proud that the UAE is engaging on that and working with the governments of Indonesia to do so. But it's going one step further in the discussion and discourse around being nature positive. So not only conserving what we have, but restoring and enhancing what we've got. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where the International Union of the Conservation of Nature comes in. As one of the largest environmental networks that constitutes members from both government, civil society, indigenous peoples organization, we're an institution that brings initiatives such as the one just launched now with other global initiatives so that we can leverage our collective action. The other thing that we do is support the science-based, evidence base of ensuring that what we do is documented and we understand the impacts of our actions to ensure that our leveraged capital is moving in the right direction. And finally, IUCN is there as well to help with the capacity building programs. Mangroves are essential ecosystems. Building them, protecting them requires a level of community engagement. IUCN is ready to partner with the governments and its members to ensure that we take learnings from many global initiatives such as those and trickle them down to the community level. Again, I take the opportunity to congratulate the governments. I'm extremely proud as a UAE native and a resident and a citizen that this is happening within the borders of my own country. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your remarks on the importance of global cooperation in the pursuit of nature-based solutions against climate change. And finally, before we go into our panel discussion with our partners, I would like to hand over the floor to Her Excellency Dr. Sheikha Aldhaheri, the Secretary General of the Environment Agency of Abu Dhabi, to give her remarks and share with you what mangroves means to us in the UAE.
Thank you so much, Your Highness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests. It's, of course, such a pleasure to be here with you today at such an important global event, attended by delegates from more than 200 countries. This is the event, This is an important milestone in our journey towards collective climate action, an event which reminds us of the looming crisis, an event which also fills us with hope, given the galaxy of all the world leaders and also climate scientists present here today. Combating climate requires a suite of action to remediate. One such action we are taking back home in Abu Dhabi is, of course, mangrove restoration. Action to provide nature-based solutions to mitigate climate change. Over more than a decade, EAD with its key partners from government, society, and also private sector planted well over 15 million mangroves in the coastal of Abu Dhabi. This led to an increase in mangrove areas by 64 square kilometers between 2001 and 2020 by an increase of 35% in the area. Our efforts to restore mangrove is not just an action to plant mangroves. It is deeply rooted in the conservation ethos of our late Sheikh Zayed, who himself initiated mangrove restoration to protect and restore our biodiversity. In 2013, Abu Dhabi Blue Carbon Demonstration Project was launched by EAD in collaboration with UNEP and other key partners. This study improved our understanding for carbon storage and sequestration and the extent of blue carbon ecosystem in Abu Dhabi. Our mangrove in Abu Dhabi stores more than 98 tons of carbon per hectare, equivalent to 1.7 million tons for 175 square kilometers of mangrove on the coast of Abu Dhabi. This, of course, translates into 1.3 million cars removed from our roads in 1 year. Our action in Abu Dhabi was scaled to cover the rest of the country to enhance the national understanding of carbon storage in the country. Climate actions requires a long-term commitment, sustainable financing, and of course, technology innovation. We are implementing one such innovation in Abu Dhabi by planting over 35,000 mangrove seeds using the drones. These drones are able to shoot over 200 seeds per minute. The project has already achieved a success of over 40% success. This Abu Dhabi Mangrove Initiative is making planting in inaccessible areas in a quick time and also in cost efficient as well. Also, we are proudly that the World Economic Forum has selected this initiative among the top 12 global environmental innovation this year. Using advanced genomics at our new state-of-art Plant Genetic Resources Center will also be charting a new roadmap for restoration in Abu Dhabi, using more resilient species to restore degraded habitats and also in the process to contribute to the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration 2020-2030. The seeds that Sheikh Zayed sowed have come to fruition. Today, we boast of 175 square kilometer area of mangroves in Abu Dhabi. His actions, taken well over 4 decades ago, resonates well with the global climate actions. More importantly, they are helping us to fight the twin crisis of biodiversity loss and climate change. We remain fully committed to climate action and our leadership aspiration to achieve the net zero 2050. We have no doubt that we collectively can achieve that for us and for our planet. Please join the motion. Please join the alliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, on the significant role that mangroves play in the UAE. Next, we're going to be hearing from some of our partners. I would like to invite to the stage Ignace Beguin, lead for ocean and coastal zones with the UNFCCC Climate Champions. And I would also like to welcome our panelists, Her Excellency Kristen Tilley, the Australian Ambassador for Climate Change, His Excellency Ono Hiroshi, Vice Minister for Global Environmental Affairs at the Ministry of Environment of Japan, and Dr. Sunimal Jayathunga, Additional Secretary for Environment Development at the Ministry of Environment of Sri Lanka.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello. Well, hello everyone. Fantastic to be here with you all today. And what an exciting set of speakers we had previously for the launch of the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. We'll not deep dive into the core of the topic with my fellow panelists and hear from their governments on how they are expecting to improve the state of mangrove and why the Mangrove Alliance for Climate is important. I will start with a first question for each of you, and feel free to pick up on any points you would like. But we heard a lot about the potential of mangrove, the need for technology, but there is also a critical finance gap to finance mangrove worldwide. I would like to hear your thoughts on how you think we can tackle this financing gap for mangrove. What are the solutions? Maybe in your country you have developed some projects that have been able to attract capitals to mangrove, and we'll be keen to hear your thoughts on how the public or the private source of funding can be leveraged adequately for mangrove. I don't know who wants to start in particular on this point.
I'm happy to start. Yeah. Thanks very much, and can I start by saying thanks very much to UAE Minister and to Indonesia for inviting Australia to participate in this initiative, this event. We're very pleased to do so. In Australia, we've been looking at blue carbon and opportunities to incentivise protection, restoration of blue carbon for a number of years. We've started building the science capability as well as the accounting capability and the emissions recording capability into our inventories. And through something called the Emissions Reduction Fund in Australia, which is our carbon abatement scheme that provides carbon credits for projects which reduce emissions, we have, in the last year, introduced our first blue carbon methodology. So it's the accounting practice and the evaluation system to determine how much abatement a blue carbon project sequestered. We haven't yet got a methodology for mangroves, but we're working on one. So I guess in answer to your question, there are real opportunities to monetise the abatement from mangrove sequestration. I'll make one final point, which is we heard from a number of the speakers today that mangroves can sequester carbon around 4 times what a tropical rainforest can. There's an additional point I'd like to throw into that, that great analysis, because it really promotes what we're here to do, which is mangroves can sequester carbon at around 30% faster than land-based forests can as well. So not only can they sequester more carbon, and when you're monetising that, that means more money, they can do it faster. And for the communities that drive these projects, that means money sooner and faster.
Thank you. And I think that indeed we are able to monetize the capacity for mangrove to sequester carbon, but it's also harder to monetize their biodiversity benefits and resilience and coastal adaptation benefits, which I think will be a key next step to able to attract the a larger set of funding for mangrove if we are able to capture within a financial system all of their benefits. I don't know if...
Can I add one very quick point on that I won't speak, I'll let my colleagues speak. What we're seeing in our carbon abatement scheme, the Emissions Reduction Fund, is that companies are prioritising abatement credits which have co-benefits for them. So they are actually valuing them higher than simply CO2 abatement. So I think the market is actually moving in that direction.
Thank you. Yeah. Please, Mini.
Thank you very much. And first of all, let me congratulate government of UAE as well as government of Indonesia for launching this wonderful, initiative of the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, MAC. MAC is a fantastic, abbreviation. And I'm very honored to be the first the first 5 members of the alliance, and the Japanese government is very much committed to this alliance. And coming back to your question of how can you fill the gap of the financial gap, it is always quite challenging for all the areas to get the financial contributions. But I think the mangrove, as we learned a lot from this conference, the mangrove is an excellent example of nature-based solution. It can contribute to both mitigation, adaptation of climate change, as well as the biodiversity issues. There is the opportunity to monetize blue carbon from the mangrove, as well as biodiversity benefits. Because a lot of philanthropists as well as private sector businesses are very much interested in contributing to the protection of biodiversity. So we are feeling that kind of movement all around. So I think to raise awareness on the benefit of mangrove and the climate change as well as biodiversity arena is the first step to moving forward to fill the gap of the finance. Thank you.
Secretary, any thoughts to share on finance?
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me appreciate for giving this opportunity for Sri Lanka to take a part of this launching event. And our Honorable Minister of Environment, Mr. Nasir Ahmed, supposed to be attend to this event, and due to unavoidable circumstances and with our HE is here, and he blessed for this event to express to me. And also let me appreciate the governments of UAE, United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia for launching this Mangrove Alliance for Climate. So coming back to the question you were asking, so in Sri Lanka, mangroves, we have identified it as a very unique ecosystem that's provide a lot of environmental services and human health and also the biodiversity. So therefore, we have already declared that Sri Lanka will be the champion of this Blue Carbon Charter of Commonwealth in 2014. So, having said that, so as we know that mangrove is a unique ecosystem, means that in terms of climate change mitigation and adaptation, because this mangrove ecosystem has the capacity of sequestrating greenhouse gas emissions, so carbon 4 to 5 times. Now research proved that. So therefore, protecting this ecosystem is vital and it's very important. And having this type of alliance to protect and sustainably use and also the restore this ecosystem is very much important, and really appreciate from Sri Lanka for this alliance, leading for this alliance. So as I indicated that this ecosystem is under threat now, because this unique ecosystem we need to protect. So therefore, so we need to find some funding for protecting those things. So under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, there is financial architectures has been built. So therefore, so we can find funding together with this alliance to protect mangroves in the world. And also, establishing this kind of alliance, so we can work together those countries, so the partner countries, to restore these ecosystems because some countries has capacity of supporting for the developing countries. So I think in this context, this alliance will assist for the countries for finding finance. That's a good opportunity for protecting mangroves in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Now I would like to hear from your country's experience on how you find the balance between restoration, protection, and reforestation of mangrove. We know this is the three key tools that we can do to make mangrove in a better state. What is your priority in your governments between protection, restoration, and reforestation? Why and how, maybe if you have an example on how concretely this is happening? Please.
Thank you very much for your question. And in Japanese, we have some mangrove forest in southern island state, but we have not very much mangrove forest in our country. But we are working very hard to protect and restore the mangrove forests in developing countries, including Indonesia, as well as Myanmar, Senegal, and Oman, and other countries. And I am very wishing to, looking forward to working with UAE in this regard to protect and restore mangrove forest through this alliance. And in terms of the concrete activities, we are working with Japan International Cooperation Agency to restore and rehabilitation work of mangroves. One of the major highlight is the information gathering and the technology transfer, as well as the activities on the ground. Such kind of awareness raising and technology assistant programs, we are working very hard in that, mainly in the Asia and the Pacific region, and we are looking forward to expand that activities in the Middle East and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, Excellency, yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. In Sri Lanka, we have already formulated national policy on conservation and sustainable use of mangroves in 2020. And also, we have a national strategic action plan for conservation and sustainable utilization of mangrove ecosystems in Sri Lanka, that is from 2020 to 2026. And also, we have the national climate change policy. And also, we have that nationally determined contribution submitted to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And we have the national adaptation plan prepared in 2015 to be implemented onward 2016 to 2025. Those policies and strategies already identified that mangrove is one of the ecosystems that need to be protected. In this respect, we are now started that mapping of the total mangrove in the country. We identified that up to now we have 20,000 hectares of mangroves, and there are some areas to be reforested and restored and rehabilitated. So those areas, based on that available land area to be restore, replant, those we have already started replanting together with the community-based organization, and also non-governmental organizations. Based on this policy guidance, and as also we have already committed to be carbon neutral by 2050. In order to achieve this target, we need to increase the tree cover or forest cover to increase the sequestration of carbon. So this is one of the best or one of the good ecosystem. So therefore, identifying this ecosystem as one of the priority ecosystem in the country. Sri Lanka is working onward that.
Any comments?
Yes, just quickly, I think I'd say Australia's approach is to have a balance, whether certainly the priority on protecting and preserving is there. Reforesting previously harvested mango areas is equally a priority. Where decisions are taken for development reasons to potentially impact on existing mangrove areas, where it's in Commonwealth, so national legislation, we do have a requirement that the developer would need to offset that biodiversity or environmental impact with something equivalent or greater biodiversity and environmental benefit. So I guess I would just restate that. I think there's a balance of different approaches needed depending on the different development objectives and environmental protection objectives you have in a given area.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to turn into the context of COP27. We've heard that mangrove and nature-based solution in general are key if we want to tackle the climate crisis, biodiversity crisis, and be on a pathway for the 1.5. What are your expectations from COP27 on nature-based solution? What do you want to see as a key outcome from Sharm el-Sheikh on the broader topic of nature-based solution?
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. Is it working? Thank you very much for your question and working. Okay. Thank you very much. And I think that currently there is a growing consensus that nature-based solution is one of the, very significant element of the climate mitigation as well as adaptation. So I think I'm not sure that in the specifically, but in the outcome of the conference documentation. I do hope that nature-based solution will be highlighted as a major tools for climate change mitigation and adaptation. And beyond that, the UAE will be hosting next COP, and I will expect more in the next COP 28 on the appealing of the significance of mangroves as well as nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Secretary.
Okay, thank you very much for this question. As you all know that in February this year, United Nations Environment Assembly adopted a resolution 5.5 on nature-based solution for supporting sustainable development. And also in May this year, the UNCCD Decision 8 of COP15 include that clear reference to nature-based solutions and also a new global framework for managing nature through 2030, which include 21 targets. So therefore, already that globally, or the global community already have taken decision for related to this nature-based solutions. What Sri Lanka expect from this COP in terms of nature-based solutions, especially we expect that already committed to the pledge finance to be mobilized for restore and protect and sustainable use of nature-based capitals, nature-based solutions, and also capacity buildings. It is necessary and to make aware the communities and the relevant authorities for protecting these nature-based solutions and implementing nature-based solutions, so that capacity building already that supports we expect from this COP27, and also technology development and transfer is also very important for developing countries to implement nature-based solution. So we expect from this COP, because this COP is implementation COP, not to come with more pledges. There are a lot of pledges already made. So therefore that implementation is important and addressing to protect this nature and to implement nature-based solution to address this dangerous climate change.
Ambassador?
Thank you. I think, like my colleagues, there's lots of places in the negotiations that nature-based solutions can drive real mitigation or technology transfer or transparency or financing outcomes or benefit from those outcomes. For me, I think the real opportunity for practical collaboration is in the action agenda side of the COP. So it's events like these that are giving the profile, building momentum, but driving practical collaboration on projects. And so I think for me, it's outside of the negotiations that the real opportunity lies.
Brilliant. So, I think there is also a global momentum for mangrove. I know we have the Ramsar Convention happening right now, and there is a great progress on that front. Hopefully, most of us will go to Montreal to make CBD COP15 a success, which will be critical for this agenda to continue and to deliver both on climate and biodiversity. This is indeed critical. And finally, tomorrow, there will be a very exciting announcement with the Global Mangrove Alliance and the Climate Champions about mangrove and how we can really scale up finance for mangrove. And hopefully this work will support you as governments to turn into implementation, receive funding, public and private, for the local communities to be the stewards of mangrove restoration, protection, and reforestation. So stay tuned for tomorrow. But with that, I will, thanks again UAE for their leadership and Indonesia as part of the G20 and all of you for really showing the path. And I hope when we meet soon and at COP28, much more governments will be part of MOCCAE. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to you, Ignace, as well, for moderating the session. Thank you very much. And thank you to our speakers for an insightful discussion and on mangroves nature-based solutions and how the solution is in the forefront of leading efforts to mitigate climate change. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That brings our session to a close. And I'd like to thank our speakers and attendees for inaugurating the Mangrove Alliance for Climate. We look forward to working with you, to welcoming you as partners, and continuing towards COP28. Thank you.